Hello, and welcome to the Exponential Growth Podcast, powered by Analyst Investors. I'm your host, David Olivencia, co-founder of Analyst Investors, and a passionate advocate for leveraging innovation and technology to drive success. In this podcast, we'll dive into the strategies that top leaders, investors, and entrepreneurs are using to navigate and thrive in this era of accelerating technological change. Whether you're looking to lead more effectively, make smarter investments, or understand how to harness disruptive technologies for exponential growth, this podcast is for you. Each episode will feature conversations with visionary thinkers, industry pioneers, and innovative leaders who are redefining what's possible in today's rapidly evolving world. So if you're ready to start and stay ahead of this curve, let's get started. This is Exponential Growth. All right, everyone. Well, hey, welcome to another edition of the Exponential Growth Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, somebody I've known probably the last 3-4-ish years through investing groups and the Chicago scene. He's the Global Director of Workforce Engagement at Morningstar, a great company, basically doing products and services in the investment space and everything around data and research and investment, but a global leader there. And has an amazing career, leadership roles at Anywhere Real Estate Inc. And I was doing a little bit of background. I mean, I knew a little bit about, they have some amazing brands under this Anywhere Real Estate Inc. Better Homes and Gardens, Century 21, Coldwell Banker, Sotheby's International, probably a couple others, but so really, I was like, man, I knew all those other brands, but I didn't know this Anywhere Real Estate Inc. So that was pretty cool. And then César has had other leadership roles at Allstate and the CTA. So let's welcome to the podcast, César Lostaunau. César, welcome.
Wonderful. Hey, good to be here with you, David, and all your guests. Thanks for the opportunity.
Great. Well, amazing track record, background. We'd always like to start out this Exponential Growth Podcast. Just tell us a little bit about you, César, and your story.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me begin with my beginnings, and I like to begin with the personal journey, then I'll get into the career journey. Personally, it's an immigrant story for me. I was born in Lima, Peru. My parents decided to move here to the States, specifically Chicago, when I was 8 years old. So still, like most multicultural, bicultural, bilingual professionals, very still rooted in my cultural background, specifically Peru, where my dad's side of the family is. So my dad's side, so I still kind of operate with one foot in Latin America and Peru specifically, and other parts that my dad's side of the family lives in today, which is Costa Rica, Venezuela, Argentina, and obviously Peru. And then my mom's, which is what brought us here to the States, to Chicago. So it was a wonderful journey. All my education has been here in the Chicago area, a proud product of the Chicago public school system. Went to school here in Central Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, Go Illini, and excited to...
the Hoosiers, that was a good one. Well, I was not a good one,
Yeah.
Not a good one, but it was a good one for my Hoosiers. But my daughter
That's
goes
right,
Hoosiers.
Indiana, the cross border rivalry there with the schools. But yeah, just had a wonderful experience there when I earned a Bachelor of Science in Finance, and that's actually where I learned about Morningstar, because when I was studying finance as an undergrad there, I would use Morningstar reports to evaluate mutual funds back then. So come full circle, 10 months ago when I joined Morningstar, and I was approached by someone on the team here. They said, hey, would you consider working for Morningstar? And I was like, Morningstar? Why would I work for Morningstar? They're not necessarily at the career fairs that I go to. I don't know a lot of people there, but I took a risk. And it's, I think, one of my leadership principles is just, take those calculated risks. I said, you know what, let me explore. The person who asked me to join the company I deeply admire and respect. And I said, yeah, well, if you're inviting me and I really, really respect you and your opinion, I'm going to give it a shot. What have I got to lose? Talked to my career coach. He said, yeah, I'll help you prepare for this. Fast forward to today, I'm excited to lead as a global director of workforce engagement, where I really manage 2 big portfolios. But given my finance, technology, and operations management background, I bring that to the lens where I get to lead and support our 1,000 employee resource group members across the 30 different countries that we get to operate in our $2.3 billion organization. And then I also get to lead the philanthropy side of the business. So I also have another team that's heavily focused on making sure that we are investing in the communities that we get to operate in among the 11,000 employees across locations like not only the US, but Mumbai, India, Toronto, London, Paris, Madrid, just all over the world. And that's what gets me excited about working every day, because as an immigrant myself, with that international lens, with everything that I do, every day I'm talking to Romania, London, of course, my colleagues in the US, in Seattle, at PitchBook, and New York, and Toronto, and I get to live into this bicultural, multicultural, really dimensional world when it comes to doing business every day. So that's what a little bit about me and my background.
Wow, that's great, great, Cesar. And one of the things as I've got to know you that I admire in this world of AI, and we'll talk a little bit more about kind of trends, is what I would say your deep perspective on, call it workforce engagement, all the disruption that's coming with AI, your philosophy and how you're thinking on it, I think is way ahead of where I see other I mean, I look and I deal with all HR leaders and all the corporates and all that kind of stuff. The way you're thinking about it, I think, is way ahead of others in this area. And there's a lot of people that are concerned about it, like, well, AI, what does it mean my workforce and all that kind of stuff. So on this Exponential Growth podcast, we like to educate the listeners about, well, what are the big trends and how do you stay ahead of them? And I think the lens that you're going to I mean, there's a lot of different couple lenses, but one is just call it the AI in the workforce, right? We're going to dig a little bit into that trends. So let's start there, Cesar. Just maybe share your thoughts on this big trend of AI workforce, how you're thinking about it, and how you think maybe others should be thinking about it that are in this kind of, call it HR, workforce engagement, leadership space.
Yeah, thank you for the powerful question. And you're spot on. I think that there's slow adoption in many sectors with the AI movement, but I'm excited to be, kind of on the leading edge. And the way I kind of think about it, and the way I'm actually doing it today, as it relates to just implementing AI into workforce engagement, I'm specifically looking at what I consider low value, low impact activities and saying, how can I deploy AI to do this task so that my team and I really are spending more time and more energies towards high value, high impact strategic work. I think all of us, regardless of the role that you're in, whether you're in an HR or even outside of HR, as I talk to my colleagues in finance and IT even, like I think we get too bogged down as a workforce into some of the work that's been sort of handed down to us from the predecessor that used to do that work without somebody taking a strategic time out to say, wait a minute, is there a smarter and more efficient way for me to do that? For me, the go-to is, and as a Microsoft shop that we are at Morningstar, it's like, well, how can Copilot help me with this? How can Power Automate help me with this? How can Power BI help me with this? And then working with those partners internally, for me, blessed with a strong employee technology team that helps me solution around those tasks that I think from a workforce engagement, when employees are too busy doing that administrative work and not leveraging AI, guess what? The consequence of that is sometimes disengagement. They get bored. And then I'm seeing it in the attrition numbers. So even as I try to hire new team members, of course, I'm asking those questions just to get their understanding about competencies in the AI, specifically with Copilot in my world, to see if it's something they could come in and really automate and get rid of those low value, low impact tasks that are bogging them down and taking a lot of time. That's probably one of the most meaningful ways. I think strategically, of course, I'm working with the learning and development team to say, how do we get people less afraid of AI, Gen AI, particularly, and Copilot in my world? Because I think we're being inundated with what's happening in the news. And there's a sensationalism that happens in the news. It just makes it seem like AI is evil, that AI is going to displace everyone. Well, I'm coaching my teams and working closely with the learning and development team to make sure that we confront those biases from the get-go with learning and development that helps them see the potential and helps them really even inspires them to take the risks to say, look, if you, for example, become a better prompter, that's a skill of the future. And that's how
Oh
you can
yeah.
almost guarantee that you will be ahead of the curve and not necessarily on the displacement side of the curve, because there's no doubt about it. You know this firsthand, and I've watched your wonderful, podcasts in the past about this. Like, it's disrupting everything, and either you're gonna be a part of the disruption or you're not, and you're gonna feel the consequences. That not only happens in the workforce engagement, but that happens even beyond workforce engagement. But I think that's one of the more fundamental ways in terms of how I'm looking at AI, how we're looking at it from a workforce engagement at Morningstar, and I'm hoping others are as well.
Hmm. Any other trends that you see in technology that our listeners should be aware of?
I think, as I mentioned, the biggest trend that I kind of want to double click on, and I'm hoping that this influences your audience to just kind of think about it differently, is the fear factor around AI. And the fact that I still see many, many leaders not yet understand the capabilities and are afraid of actually digging into it. And I'm talking about C-level leaders, and that's just my personal trend in terms of what I see
Yeah,
that may
because
be
you deal a
validated
lot with
with
C
some public
levels.
issue.
Yeah.
That's right, because I'm at C-levels with the 6 different businesses that I get to operate, even in my anywhere real estate experience that you called out, my Allstate insurance experience, as I just think about and just kind of reflect on the conversations that I've had with a lot of senior leaders. The trend that I'm seeing is they themselves are not adopting and really leaning into the AI movement and technologies and understanding it, and most importantly, even using it themselves. I think there's AI for the executive level leader that maybe goes beyond some of the tasks oriented tactical things that I talked about earlier in this podcast. I think we need to start thinking, and I want to encourage those of you in the listening audience that are at that C-level executive, and you don't have to necessarily be a chief technology officer to do this, but to really lean into it in a way where you become a user, where you really experiment with the subscriptions available in Gen AI, in ChatGPT as an example, and of course Copilot if you're a Microsoft shop or even if you're a Google shop. Like, you actually use it so that there's experiential learning for those of us at the executive level. And that's how, of course, we can make sure that we're expanding the possibilities, not only with us at the executive level, but also with our teammates and our teams, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And look, I do a lot of that stuff and I know I can do more. Like prompting, connecting prompts, sucking in a bunch of information, running things. I mean, it's amazing and fascinating type of things that you can automate and the information you can pull and the insights that you can pull. It's fascinating. But to your point, the other exponential curve is just, call it the fear or how do I get started? Or, sometimes it's what is it, the maybe analysis paralysis, which is maybe a cousin of the fear, right? You just kind of think about it and you figure out what the heck I'm going to do. But it is amazing. Um, so now if just moving on to investments, which is the other area, right? So we like to say, hey, what are the trends out there? Based on trends that you see, how are you thinking about investments? And you're with a global leader in kind of information that powers investors around the globe. What should our listeners be thinking about as it relates to investing?
Well, the way I kind of think about it, and I think the way most of your listeners and investors should think about it, first of all, every single type of investment opportunity that's out there, I hope has an AI component to it that they're evaluating. So as I think about investments and coming from the real estate industry, I'm blessed with a good real estate portfolio of investments. But guess what? I'm also implementing AI into that. Just recently, I created an agent for ChatGPT to help me reconcile my rents every month and keep
Yeah.
an eye on my mortgages because they change every month, as you know. So there's a lot of activities that I think, even in the old school kind of investments that we may have, like real estate, we could think, well, wait a minute, how can I apply AI into this? The
Yeah.
taxes is an example. How can taxes? I have one of my mentees who did his very complex taxes using Gen AI. So he
Wow.
basically fired his accountant and said, you know what, I'm just going to do this on my own and have AI help me do this. And I was pretty inspired by that. So I just want to emphasize the really the ability for anybody to apply AI into any investment opportunity, even in some of the sort of old school like real estate opportunities that are out there. What I think is important for us at Morningstar, and something to think about as well, is we lean into investments in the wealth tech space. So we're looking at the financial advisor value and saying, how can we equip the financial advisor with AI tools? Because we know the modern investor, especially with the younger generations, is looking at AI tools for their investments. They're looking at Robinhood. They're looking at other platforms as opposed to a traditional financial advisor. So we're getting ahead of the curve, and I'm excited about those type of investments that we think about at Morningstar. And I'm hoping other investors to say, okay, no matter what industry you're in or what industry you want to explore for an investment opportunity, what is the opportunity for AI to help with that, to help grow the market, to help grow the business? And a lot of times, as I mentioned, it could be traditional, just being innovative and kind of thinking, well, wait a minute, this is something for us to think about to leverage AI into this. I remember vividly during my time at Anywhere, David, where especially during the COVID years, where the value of the real estate agent was also being sort of discounted in AI. People buying homes sight unseen because they were basically, looking to buy a home and didn't necessarily want it. And these are some of the trends that you will learn about, or your readers can learn about, in the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals State of Home Ownership Report, that helps you understand even that industry, how they're using AI, and how I think a lot of us as investors could look at prop tech investment opportunities to figure
Yeah.
out where AI can help you even with the home purchasing transaction today. So I think every investment opportunity is really a possible opportunity to bring in AI. It may not be so in your face, but it could be, I think, if you just are innovative enough to think, well, how can AI help me with this investment, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And I think you're almost regardless of the asset class and just like the level of research. I mean, actually too, and even like, it's always it's like call it a co-pilot, right? A companion.
Hmm.
Like even like today, I just, Bitcoin dropped whatever 3 or 4% today. And I said, hey, why did the black Bitcoins drop 4% the last couple of days? Why? And it kind of lays it out and it kind of gives you a couple reasons why and gives you some intelligence. But you were talking about real estate too. You can do like, market research, like, hey, well, what is the demand going to be over the next 4 years where I have this real estate? Is it up, down, flat? How does that compare? I mean, there's so many different ways you can do that and model it. And then the next thing that, that I think is a call it a mix that I'm seeing is like, you have you're gonna give your AI agent your call it philosophy around investment, your risk appetite, what you want. And there's things like this right now, but you can imagine a world where that agent is just continuously out there negotiating deals, getting your doing a real estate deal, negotiating your mortgages, negotiating financing. I mean, and you're just sitting and it's just doing that, and you're just maybe getting a report every day. You have an AI that's giving you alert. I mean, this stuff is going to happen, and it's definitely something to keep a watch on. This is why we do the
They,
podcast, by the way.
yeah, that's, you got to stay on top of that. And you're absolutely right. I'm looking forward to autonomous agents, and full disclosure, as you're bringing that up, because even in that small example that I mentioned, using an agent to help me reconcile my rents to kind of figure out, hey, did so and so pay? Did they pay on time? And not, having to manually track that for different properties that you have. I think that at the end of the day, the way we need to start thinking about things just like you are, to say, well, heck, I shouldn't even have to press the button and download the bank statement from, in my case, Chase, to upload that into the agent. Why don't I have the agent do everything for me and just give me a notice in case something doesn't go as planned? I think about that with the workforce as well. I think if all of us in the workforce engagement space deploy agents and get into autonomous agents, again, it just gives us more ability to do more of the high impact work. And then we just get a notice from obviously the models that say, hey, something went wrong here. Bill and reconciliation process is an example. In the philanthropy part of my work, every month I have to reconcile invoices for donations that we give out across the world. As you can imagine, the team spends a lot of time doing that for an employer with 11,000 employees in 30 different countries, managing, of course, 30 different currencies around the world.
Gosh,
It's
yeah.
too laborious. An agent should be doing all that for me. And in my case, what I asked the team to do is not only use Copilot, but use Power Automate, another wonderful Microsoft tool, because they can go hand in hand. And to your point, with the right knowledge centers, it knows what to do. And then, it can do everything for us. That way, my team is spending a lot more time in some of that strategic work. So lots
Yeah,
of
and
potential,
it's
lots of excitement.
yeah, and that's like, and this is why, Cesar, why it's just an honor to have you on, because I talk to a lot of, call it, workforce engagement, HR leaders, and the level of depth that they can get into around agents and agentics and LLMs and all that kind of stuff. But then just how you drive it through the workforce. Just really appreciate your perspectives there. Um, so this, and it's a good segue into leadership, right? So, exponential growth, we talk about what are the trends? How do you kind of think about investing with all these trends going on and best position yourself for success? And then how do you lead, right? A lot of the audience out there is, are in leadership positions or up and coming leaders, and they want to know, okay, well, for all these leaders, what's the insights on leadership, right? And you're doing workforce engagement at a global company, multi-billion-dollar company. What what leadership principles in this world of AI do you think will give our listeners an edge?
The first one that comes to mind, David, is we got to lead by example at the executive level. And I'm going to double click on what I mentioned earlier, that we, no matter what levels we're in, especially those of us in senior levels, need to lean into the technology, use the agents, uh, go ahead and program some agents, get into agentic AI, not only read about it, but actually experience it so that we can, and you're a great model for that and a great inspiration for that with some of the examples you just shared earlier. I'm hoping that your audience is inspired to do the same. Not just listen to the podcast, not just read the books, not just go to the conferences and learn about it, but actually dig into it and do the work. So, leading by example, I think, is one of the fundamental principles in today's environment, especially with AI. We need to lean into it. The second one, that I'm blessed to work for an organization that is extremely collaborative as a culture, and we get to do this across all the different, obviously countries that we get to operate in. I think that's an important leadership characteristic. Today, more so relevant, especially because of everything that's going on. Things are just moving so quickly. One of my colleagues based in London and I just literally built an AI digital network within the company. So we just every other week we get together, optional for folks to just kind of come in a virtual meeting and share what they're learning in AI. That was a tip given by my AI coach, Daniel Contreras. And he said, hey, the digital network concept is something that's really, really cool because it just helps you have this grassroots conversation where everybody's exchanging ideas. And that to me is a perfect example of leading through collaboration. So it isn't just all of us who are a little bit on the leading edge of AI, especially in the workforce engagement, but we're actually sharing that knowledge and we're inspiring others to say, wow, I remember vividly we had one of our champion meetings just a couple months ago, and I built a AI agent for my ERG leaders. And I said, listen, you know, uh, I'm not available for you 24/7. And yet, as you can imagine, specifically my team in Mumbai, India, it's direct opposite in terms of the time zones that I would get to operate in here in Chicago. So I built an AI agent and put all the knowledge sources there so that they could just have at their fingertips essentially a chatbot to help them answer questions that I would be able to, right? Without me
Yeah.
being there. And so when I showcased that during our digital network meeting, others were inspired and they said, okay, well, I'm going to build an agent. And here's a knowledge center that I want to. And I was able to coach them and just kind of get them to think, especially those of us in global worlds, that's how we need to start thinking about using agents in a way where when we're not around, they have an agent available for them with the knowledge that we have. And if they have any issues, I'm back online during work hours here in the central time zone and I'm available for them. But I'm blessed to share that they've adopted that. And not only they've adopted that, but as you know, with the with the machine learning models, that model is getting smarter and smarter with those ERG leaders. And in my world, it's 1,000 members, 11 different ERGs in 17 different countries out of the 30 countries that we have where we have presence. So it's just getting all that knowledge from across the world, getting that cultural nuance around, what does D&I mean in Mumbai compared to London, compared to the US, compared to Canada, and bless. So I think the collaboration is key. And as a servant leader, and that's the last one that I'll share with you, and that's just a principle that I've had ever since I've just started in my own leadership journey. And a lot of that is rooted from my home, my upbringing, my humble upbringing as an immigrant. My mom and dad always taught us to serve, to help, and to add value no matter what we do. And that's just a philosophy that I carry with me every day is as much as I can, I'm here to serve and I'm here to help others be successful. And I get to learn from that.
Well, there's, so the leadership lessons, right? Lead by example, powerful, love it, always collaborate. I think it's so, you know, I know a lot, you know a lot, but when we both kind of share and collaborate, like
Hmm.
it's like 1 + 1 is 11, right? And it
Synergy.
expands the more you collaborate. So that's the second one. And then servant leadership, great book, Good to Great, talks about service leadership, servant leadership, and others. But I'm a true big fan there. But the other thing, I was thinking about that. You just got me thinking about this AI, this like an AI leadership series, right? Just the networks that I'm in, have people share, put it in there, and then get all these different perspectives, and then just open it up to our members. So had me thinking there. Um, I think there was one other thought there, but it's slipping me. So, Cesar, thank you. I know you got a lot going on. You're very busy. I want to thank you for making it a priority to jump on the pod. How do people stay connected to you and follow you on social?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for the chance, David. I follow you and listen to your podcast all the time, and I get inspired and learn from them. So it's a special honor to be invited to be at the table with you. I'm found on LinkedIn and happy to share that in the chat. Once you post this, welcome the opportunity in the interest of collaboration to connect with anybody. Happy to dive a little bit deeper into what I shared today. If needed, happy to just showcase some of the work that I'm doing, all in the interest of serving, collaborating, and of course, leading by example.
Well, excellent. Well, Cesar, again, thanks for jumping on the pod. To all those listeners, we'll give you the LinkedIn address and on the post that we put out. And thanks again. See you next time.
Thank you. Take care.